Hi, folks. This is What's New Westford, the podcast where we talk about what's happening here in Westford. I'm Steve from WestfordCAT, here with our news director, Joyce Pellino Crane.
Hi, everybody.
And with us today is town moderator Angela Harkness.
Hi, Steve. Hi, Joyce.
Hey, Angela.
At the recording control, we have Nick Woodbury. Thanks, Nick. The stories on today's rundown are Westford Valley Marketplace, Veterans Day on the Common, and special town meeting. Links will be in the description, and feel free to tell us what you think about these stories in the comments. So, Joyce, what's new in Westford?
So many things, but I did work on a story this week about the Westford Valley Marketplace, because if you drive by, you see more empty storefronts, and I was just wondering, what is going on there? I try to check in every 6 months or so. I was put in touch with the director of leasing of the Wilder Companies, which manages that plaza. And Ryan Feinberg was very open and said, a deal did fall through with two restaurants that were going in the Blockbuster space, which has, if you've been in town a while, it's been empty in there since 2005. So there are some businesses coming in to that space, but Ryan did not tell me what they are yet. I'll just have to stay on that. The rest of the plaza, I'm blanking on what else is missing. I think there might be one more storefront not fulfilled, but the paper store is still there, seems to be going strong. Can't figure out how those there's one in Chelmsford, there's one in Westford, there's one in Littleton, all, adjoining towns. Can't figure out how they make it, and some other types of businesses aren't.
Well, and so one of the things that went out that I was disappointed about was the GameStop. But now the nearest GameStop is in Lowell, so I have to go all the way to Lowell if I want to get games and collectibles. That was kind of a loss.
I think if I read the story correctly, that there are two things moving in there.
Yes.
There's a real estate office, Barrett Sotheby's, I think, and also Lexington I.
I think they're already there.
Okay.
I think.
Yeah.
And then there were two more businesses of some kind that were coming in.
Sort of an interesting commentary on our lifestyle in terms of what went in there, medical and real estate. It's very Westford oriented, I think.
Yeah, well, and it's interesting to see the real estate office in there because I remember when the owners of the marketplace were presenting to the selectmen about like what are they doing with that area and what are they trying to do to kind of bring it up a little bit. And they said they were focused really more on experiences than on like retail outlets, because that's what's performing well. Retail has all shifted to the internet. Everybody's buying things from Amazon rather than going to their local retailers. And that's one of the reasons that local retailers are hurting. So they seemed like they were focused more on trying to bring in things that would provide an interesting experience.
Yes.
That would draw people in as like a place to hang out.
Mm-hmm. In Westford, that typically amounts to another restaurant with an alcohol license.
It seems to, but there are only so many alcohol licenses to go around.
That's true, but they seem to have more than they used to.
Well, and then every time we need to petition the state for another, everybody seems happy to do that.
And then Karma's going to be expanding as well.
Again?
Well, they haven't done that yet.
They haven't actually expanded. They renovated
into that place next to them with a boutique liquor store specializing in sake and such.
Yeah, I heard about that. That place is going to be interesting. Asian liquors.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of a place to congregate.
Yeah.
Well, it was up at town meeting.
It was.
Not this last one, the one before.
Oh, yeah. You have a good memory. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I didn't know that, and I'll follow that story right through to the end.
Well, and I was glad to see when Karma renovated, they got rid of their fish tank. It was nice seeing fishies there, but I have those kind of fishies. I keep fish, and they had African cichlids in there, which are the exact kind of fish that I keep. And so once I kind of understood kind of fish behavior and how they're supposed to act when they're feeling okay, every time I walked by or went in there, it's like the fish in this tank are not doing well. and there were too many fish in the tank, and you could see like they were hiding in the corners and up on the top and down on the bottom. Nobody wanted to swim in the middle. And it was a nice idea for a display, is giving people something to look at as they come in, but you got to take care of your fish, and they weren't doing that very well. So I think the renovation looks really nice. I'm glad they got rid of the fish tank.
Okay, well then we're all happy because I love their food.
Yeah.
They do have good food.
They have
Yeah.
really good food.
Thanks for listening. Before we continue, I have a couple of quick announcements. On November 12th, students and alumni of Neshoba Tech will present All Together Now, a musical theater performance incorporating songs from a variety of well-known musicals ranging from Annie to Mamma Mia to Rent. The Parkerville Schoolhouse will be holding an open house on November 7th from 1 to 4 p.m. Stop by to see original artifacts from this historic one-room schoolhouse on display. Did you know that you can support WestfordCAT simply by buying from Amazon? Just go to smile.amazon.com and pick WestfordCAT as your designated nonprofit, and a portion of your purchase through the Amazon Smile program will benefit the station. Next up, there was a story about Veterans Day on the Common. And this is something that happens every year, and it's I don't think it happened last year because of COVID.
Yeah.
Nobody did any gatherings.
No.
But now that things are opening back up, we're gathering again, and it's safe to be outside without a mask. So this is kind of a good opportunity for people to gather on the Common and see some of their friends and honor veterans.
Yeah, I'm blanking on the date of the observance. I never call it a celebration. It's not. It's an observance. It's November 11th. I try to go almost every observance, and that's because my father was a World War II soldier, and he's now passed away, but he had a full life. Fortunately, he did come home from the war, and then I have a son in the military. So it's so embarrassing because I cry every time I'm there at one of the observances. I never cry. I don't cry at anything. I do cry in this one situation with veterans. So that's about all I have to say about it.
Yeah, well, it's been a couple of years since I've been, but my dad always goes because he was in the Air Force, and there's a nice picture of him on WestfordCAT.org right now, or WestfordCatNews.org.
Yay.
Right up front with your article. He's a member of the American Legion over by NAB, so he goes to all of those and hangs out with the veterans. And it's always disappointing to see how few people show up to those. I know I'm guilty of not going for the last several years, but it is kind of a nice little gathering opportunity. And if you're someone who is patriotic and supports the military and supports our country, it's good to show up and just say hello. And the veterans are all nice guys. Have a chat with them.
I think it's one of those things on the Common that makes for community. Of course, Veterans Day is special in its own right, but all of those types of things that involve gathering on the Common really make Westford what it is, whether it's something that may not gather as many people like Veterans Day, or a huge event like Apple Blossom, or some of the other different types of things we've been celebrating or just recognizing in more recent years. It seems like we're getting more things happening on the Common, which is great. I think that's great for us as a community for that to happen.
We are very fortunate to have this piece of land right in the center of town. And this is the prettiest town I've ever been in. It's just a perfect setup in the center.
I think we've done a great job protecting it. I mean, if you travel to other communities around, you'll see that not everybody has been able to protect their traditional town common, which has existed for as long as whatever town you're in has been there. But Westford has done a fantastic job of keeping it what it originally was, and then modifying how we use it to update it with the updates in society.
Yes. I love when the seniors gather before prom. It's one of my favorite days of the year. Yeah,
no, I was a little disappointed with the 63 Main Street that ended up becoming a single family house. One of the possibilities that was being discussed was having that be kind of like a common adjacent space that would still be open and outdoors. And so things like the farmers market that have a kind of a very heavy wear and tear on the common because there's so many people there, could kind of expand a little bit and be a little bit more on 63 Main Street. But that didn't end up happening. And, people in that neighborhood wanted it to be a single family residential home. So that's what it became. And that's good. But I think we missed a bit of an opportunity there to kind of give people a little bit more space in the center of town. That's the thing I think it really lacks is just enough space for all of the things that we want to do there.
I think part of that property is still going to be used for parking, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's true.
Yeah, the select board carved off almost an acre on the back of it that connects from the town hall parking lot to Rodenbush, and there were 3 different concepts for different ways that they could install parking back there.
And that's an important factor. If we're going to use the common, we need to have parking for people to use if they're attending an event there.
Absolutely. Yeah. And we at special town meeting, we set up for having EV charging stations at town hall, and that's great, but it has wiped out a whole row of parking. And I really kind of wish they had installed the extra parking before they had wiped out all those parking spots, because that lot is starting to get tight.
It hasn't wiped out a whole row of parking. It's made it available to people with electric vehicles.
True. But I don't have an electrical vehicle, so I can't park there.
That can be your new goal.
Yeah, I would love to get there, but the price of cars is going up. It's not helpful.
I'm not buying a new car until I can get a driverless one.
So you're going for a Tesla.
Oh, my sister already bought one. She's having the time of her life down in Texas. Yeah, so it sounds like it's fun to drive.
Yeah, we'll have to get you in with Zach Cataldo.
Actually, Zach did give myself and Nick a ride because I did an article on it. And he has a following from Tesla of, at that time, it was 40,000. I'm sure it's way higher now. He's amazing. Yeah, he's, your board of health chairman. And then by night, he's Batman.
Now we're going to take a quick break and come back for more after a word from our station.
WestfordCAT is more than just television. We have the equipment and knowledge to help you get started as an independent media creator. Find us on YouTube for local news, Westford Academy sports, and media content created by Westford neighbors and friends. Or look up our website at westfordcat.org for details about the station and how to get involved. Funding for local media is on the decline, so if you appreciate our work, please become a member of the station or make a tax-deductible donation to support local media. Links are in the description. Thanks for tuning in.
We're back with more news and discussion. Just a quick reminder, links to these stories are in the description if you want more information. All right, so the next story on the rundown is special town meeting. And we have a nice gallery of photos that you took at special town meeting. People can go, if they didn't attend the meeting, which I know most people in town didn't, because we only had 225 attendees. They can go take a look and see how things went. It was a good meeting. It was a historically quick meeting. Mm-hmm. It was remarkable how fast we got through the entire warrant. It was just under an hour.
Yeah, it was actually about an hour and 8 minutes, I think. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I was very impressed. You did a really good job.
Well, thank you.
You have such a command of the rules.
I think the town employees, you guys here at CAT, and the voters all make me look good by each doing their jobs. Really, that makes it a lot easier for me.
Yeah, but how did you learn all the rules? And, you seem so confident in yourself when you're up there.
It's a great act, isn't it? No, I'm kidding. I've been going to town meeting ever since I lived here, so 1988. Of course, once I decided to run for moderator, Ellen Hardy's been just indispensable in going through things with me and helping me when I had questions and helping me run through how things might go and what questions might come up. And I've paid attention to town meeting time, which is our governing book of
Right.
rules.
Right.
And I have in the last couple of years read through the town bylaws and all the things that are relevant to the running of town meeting, and reviewed stuff that's on the Mass Moderators Association website. So all of that. But again, it's a lot easier when other people are all doing their jobs and performing their duties. So
Do we want to talk about anything that happened or that got voted, positively at
So
town
it
meeting?
was one of the reasons it was so short was because it was a very limited warrant. We only had 9 articles, one of which was dismissed. The only thing that generated any controversy was the restriction of motorboats on Keys Pond,
Mhm.
and the thing that made that vote or that discussion take as long as it did
Mhm.
was the fact that we had to count the votes at the end. That added an additional 10 minutes, which, yeah, I mean, it was not burdensome because it was a short meeting anyway, but for the most part, there was not a lot of controversy in the warrant.
Can
Yeah, so I wonder if maybe there's a faster way to count votes that maybe uses a little electronic device where you push a button to register your vote.
Well, now that you bring that up, the selectmen did at their last meeting support the idea of reinvestigating the idea of using electronic voting tabulators at town meeting. So my hope is to gather information about that without having any preconceived notions, and publicize the information, have some meetings where people can ask questions, or some method by which people can ask questions about it and get those questions answered, and then try to make a decision as to whether this is the right thing to do, and bring that decision to the community so that the community can participate in deciding whether it's the right way to go.
Yeah, well, I'd love to see something like that. I really hope that this time around, the developer is able to show up and kind of defend his product to some of the people who have questions about security and anonymity and some of these issues that always come up whenever you talk about electronic voting, and how do we know that it works the way it says it works? And
Voting and the sanctity of your vote is so important that I can't imagine recommending a new way of counting votes to the community without having someone there to answer specific questions about, is this safe? Is it accurate? Can we rely on it? So
Yep.
I agree with you, Steve.
Yep. And the last time around, I think it kind of fell on Mike Wells to answer a lot of those questions. And, he did a good job, as good as he could. But it's not his technology. He doesn't have the kind of the fundamental understanding of how it works on a mechanical level. And so he really wasn't able to answer people's questions. And I really hope we can get that developer there to answer those questions, because that's, I think, super important to giving people the confidence to understand what's going on behind the scenes.
We're a ways from that, of course. Again, there's more than one manufacturer now, and maybe even more than the last time we looked at it, when I think there were 3. Many more communities have started using it now. There are 38 communities that are using electronic voting tabulators at their town meetings now, which was not the case a couple of years ago. And I suspect that during these 2 years of the pandemic, that there has been more use of this type of voting tabulation, because it's just another way of doing things where you don't have to be standing together or together for long periods of time. So all of that has to be looked at and brought forward to the community before we can even decide what carrier or manufacturer we're going to use.
Yep. And I think a big driver behind this also is going to be costs. That was kind of the one concern that people had when we discussed this on the Access to Town Meeting Committee. Yeah, we're all in support of the idea of clickers, but we want to make sure that it's not going to cost the town too much, because town meetings are already expensive to run. And if it goes to a second day, then that's another big expense that gets added on, because you got to pay for everybody to come back, and got to have all the technology set up to run the meeting. It's not free to run a town meeting. And hopefully by spending a little bit on clickers, we can kind of get away from having to come back a second day and incur those extra costs. But there is definitely a balance point in there.
Whatever costs are incurred to improve town meeting have to be balanced, of course. But the underlying question is, how important is it for us to have this form of governance, and how important is it for us to maintain our accuracy in voting and counting and all of that stuff? So all of those things come into play, I think. As a community, we have to decide how much that's worth.
Yep. Well, and hopefully if we do adopt these clickers or vote tabulators, or however you want to refer to them, hopefully that will give people a little bit more confidence that the meeting is not going to get bogged down, and you can come and sit down and participate. Hopefully we'll get a few more people showing up. I don't think we're going to get a lot more people showing up from just adopting clickers. I think there are a lot of other things that we have to do to kind of make it more appealing for people to show up. But shifting gears a little bit, you have a goal of having a town meeting with 1,000 attendees.
I do.
How are you going to do that?
Well, no, you're going to do that.
Fair
That's
enough.
a great segue into the Access to Town Meeting Committee, which Steve is actually a member of. And that committee is charged with improving participation in town meeting and coming up with ideas and ways to do that. And it's really, I've been sitting in on the meetings, and it's a great committee. They don't think inside the box. They're all thinking outside the box and coming up with some great new ideas. And I don't think they're hemmed in by any preconceived notions. And I really think some good suggestions are going to come out of that. And we have to do something to increase participation in town meeting. My fear is if we don't, it'll just go away eventually, because people are not going to continue to be okay with just a couple of hundred people making big decisions for the town. Of course, that's our way of government. It's in our bylaws. It's in our governing bylaws right now. But I just have a fear that if we don't increase participation, we might someday see the end of town meeting. And there are some great things about town meeting that we definitely want to preserve. We want to preserve that face-to-face conversation that people have about the different issues, and the back and forth that they can have with questions and answers at town meeting. But we have to find a way to do that brings other people in, people who maybe can't sit at the meeting all day, or can't attend a particular meeting for whatever reason.
Yeah, and I've certainly heard rumblings from people saying, town meeting isn't working, and do we need to shift to either a representative form of town meeting or even like a city council form of government? And I think that would be a big loss.
Yeah.
So we have to find a third way.
Absolutely.
We gotta find a way to make it work.
Exactly. Yeah.
Somehow we have
And-
to get inside their homes and put the wires in and bring the video right to their living room
Yep. Well, and let them vote from home.
and let them vote from home.
That would be huge. Or at the very least, have a ballot a week after the meeting. And there's a lot of potential questions, and these are all things that we're talking about on the committee of how can we make this work.
Yeah.
And I agree, the committee is doing good work so far. I like the energy on the committee. There are a bunch of tech savvy people who kind of can move the technology along, and try to adopt the right technologies to make it work. And there are also some people on the committee who have never been to town meeting before, and that's an important perspective too, of how do we get these people who have never come to town meeting and haven't been that interested in it, how do we let them know how important it is, and give them an easy way to participate?
And there are also people who have been to every town meeting for the last 30 years and who love it the way it is and want to preserve the aspects of it they love. So it's a very, very varied committee that really is representative of the town, I think.
Absolutely.
Who's chairing that committee?
Diane Wood.
Yep. Diane Wood was the one who was doing the most talking at the first meeting. So everybody said, let's elect her. That seems to be the way it goes. If you're not afraid to be out front, then they're going to put you out front.
Yeah. So Diane Wood is the chair. I want to say there are 14 or so people on the committee. Is that right?
Yeah, I believe we started with 15 and then somebody dropped out. So,
and there are 3 working groups. Let's see if we can remember what they are. If you can, I'm not sure I can. One of them is remote access to town meeting. Is that your working
that's my
group?
subcommittee.
Yep. One of them is surveying the community as to why people don't or can't attend town meeting.
Yep.
Gathering
Gathering data.
And the third one, I think, is publicity around the how to get the information about what's happening at an upcoming town meeting out to the public.
Yep.
Is that right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think
Okay.
I think that covers it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we've got a lot of things coming down the pipeline, and we've broken up. We've got some smart people thinking about it. So hopefully we'll be able to solve the problem. Thanks for listening, folks. We hope this leaves you a little better informed about your town. If you like this episode, tell YouTube to share it with your neighbors by hitting that like button, and tell us what you think about these stories in the comments below. Thanks again to Nick for recording, to Angela for joining us in the studio, and to Joyce for telling us what's new in Westford.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.